Clog TV.
Beyond the policy.
Yeah, welcome back to the KOKO Digest Morning Show. If you're just tuning in, this is the KOKO Digest Morning Show, and we're about to have our main discussion, and this is about fire prevention and safety tips, outbreak preventions, all that you need to know about safety. They say fire is a good servant but a bad master. And when was the last time you had any fire prevention safety measures being taught to you? It's been a while, right? Yes. So I have here with me the Director of Public Relations for the Ghana National Fire Service, and he's in the person of ACFO 1, Timothy Osafo Efum, and he's going to be teaching us about fire outbreak prevention and safety measures and precautions to take. Hello, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure for being here.
Yes. So you are the Director of Public Relations for the Ghana National Fire Service.
Sure.
What does that entail?
So every public interaction between the service and the general public will have to go through my department.
Okay.
And so we have a lot doing. Every day you get people coming to make inquiries, and some in with respect to what we do.
Okay.
Some also wanting to join our noble service, and other issues. Some may need help, and they wanted to find out if we are in a position to do that. If there is any communication to that we want the public to know, all passes through my department, and that is basically what we do.
Okay. So let's get into the fire safety precautions and measures. When they say fire safety, what does that mean?
So fire safety simply means the measures you put in place in your premises, at your workplace, in the farm, in your environment, wherever human lives are involved, so as to minimize and, if possible, prevent fires from occurring. So when we say fire prevention, this is exactly what we mean.
So what are some of the common causes of fires in our environment, basically?
So fires may occur as a result of carelessness on the part of a human being, as a result of negligence, as a result of an accident, or as a result of deliberate action on the part of someone. So basically, this is how we have grouped the types of fires that, or the causes of fires that we have. But specific actions have to be taken for these fires to occur. And in Ghana, most of the fires we record are as a result of people not handling naked lights appropriately. When we say naked light, it doesn't mean the light that we have here. Anything that can cause fire, but it's not in an enclosure, it is not protected. That is what we mean by a naked light. So for example, if you have a charcoal fire using for cooking, that is a naked light.
Okay.
A candle is a naked light.
Okay.
So all these things, if they are not handled appropriately and they get out of hand, they may cause fires. What we have observed is that these negligence normally or mostly comes from where we have people migrating and settling. So we talk about slum areas.
Yes.
Where these incidents do occur frequently.
Okay.
But there is always a way to prevent it from occurring. And one major way of doing that is through education, of which we do regularly. And we always talk to data. So the data will indicate to us which of the aspects of our job needs a lot more education. Then we put in more effort into that area. So we don't just stand up and go out there to educate. It is done based on the data on the ground.
So I remember you mentioned farms, and then it took me back to school where something about preparing your land, the bush burning things. So sometimes it leads to an outbreak, especially in the dry season. Can you speak on that a little more?
So we have what we call clearing of bush. And the clearing of bush could be for agricultural purposes or for rearing or just clearing purposes. So depending on what you want to use the land for, then one will set the bush on fire. However, we have what we call bushfire prevention volunteers.
Okay.
These are basically in our rural settings, whom we have given special training. And so if you want to do it in the rural settings, because they are available, you get in touch with them, they will come and show you or stand by to support you do your burning.
Okay.
If it is in the urban settings, then you get in touch with us. We will support you in doing that.
Okay.
So we have various ways by which people do clear the land. Mostly, if you look at our data, we record a lot more bushfires in the urban areas than the rural areas.
Okay.
Simply because my backyard is bushy. I want to clear it. Instead of me to get somebody to clear it for me, I just set fire to it and it gets out of hand.
Okay.
And once it gets out of hand, any fire that is uncontrolled is a fire. We have controlled fires and we have uncontrolled fires.
Okay.
So if it gets out of hand, that is where you have to call us in to come and assist. And so we record a lot more bushfires in our urban communities than in the rural setting.
Okay.
But you see, we live in an environment where we have what we call ecosystem. The ecosystem must be balanced. So God did not create the bush for nothing. Certain species of plants and animals are in there that supports human existence. So if we say we are burning just for burning's sake because we have to clear the bush, then it means we are creating imbalances in the system. And a time will come that the environment cannot support human lives because other things that must go to support human habitation on earth has been consumed by fire. And that is why we must be very careful not to set fires rampantly because we have to clear the bushes around.
Okay, so before we go to safety measures at home, I want to remind you, my cherished viewers, that we are live on Facebook and on YouTube. Our WhatsApp number is also displayed on your screen. You can also call in to ask your questions, send your questions and your comments to our WhatsApp numbers or to the live stream, or you can even make calls. We'll receive your calls here and you can ask ACFO here the questions that are on your mind. So yes, let's talk about fire safety in the home. What are some of the common causes of fires at home, and what are some of the preventive or safety curative measures that we can take?
So the two leading causes of fires in our domestic settings are electrical, and then, okay, I'll make it three.
Okay.
inappropriate handling of naked lights, as well as misuse or improper use of gas. When we talk about electricity, you know, electricity is very good that assists us or help us in our daily living in our homes. But the appropriate use of electricity is what is important. It is not just about acquiring the electricity. How then do you use the electricity? So there are certain gadgets that when you go to every home you will find. You will find radio, television, fan, DVD or home theater. These are very good, but they are meant to be used only when you are home. So if you are stepping out, all such items are to be turned off. Not just turning them off, but switching them off from the plug and unplugging.
Okay.
The reason why you have to do this is mostly the switches become faulty. When they become faulty, because the current flowing in there is not big, you may not be able to identify that there is a fault on the switch until there is maybe power outage and the power is restored. When power is restored, mostly they come at a higher voltage than normal. Then if there is enough current that can go through the faulty switch or socket, it will pass through, damaging your equipment. Because there is excess current into your appliance, there is nowhere to pass. The only option is to start a fire. And that is how come these equipments are always set ablaze, because of excess current. If it doesn't have a place to pass, the only option is to start a fire. So these equipments, if you are not using them in the home or you are stepping out, make sure they are turned off and unplugged. When you return, then you can plug them and turn them on again for use. Most of the rich people who can afford air conditioning is also one source of domestic home fires. When air conditioning is not in use or when you are stepping out, please make sure it is turned off. For air conditioning, once it is faulty, the moment there is slight excess current flowing, that will start a fire. And so, air conditioning, if you are not home, please don't say the weather is hot. And so you want to, exactly, before you come back. By the time you come, it might be too late. So for air conditioning, we advise seriously that if you are stepping out, just turn off your air conditioning. When you come, it will not take more than 5 minutes for your room to come back to the cold weather you want.
Let's come to the LPG and then the naked lights, the charcoal fires.
So with the LPG, what we have realized is that people don't know how to handle the LPG. So from the point of filling your cylinder, don't ask the attendant to top it up for you. You see, this is pressurized gas that you have put in the cylinder. Therefore, you need to have some space on top for the cylinder particles to be moving around. If you fill it to the brim, there is no space for the particles to breathe. That is how we put it. So the particles cannot breathe. Now, after you have done that and you are transporting the cylinder home, if your means of transport can afford, let the cylinder stand upright. If it cannot and it has to lie, you let it lie. But when you get home, don't immediately put it to use. Let it stand and settle. Like I said, this is a pressurized gas that has been compressed into the cylinder. So the least opportunity, it can explode or escape. So you need to ensure that it is settled. Once it is settled, the pressure becomes manageable. But if it is excited, then the pressure becomes very high. So before you connect, make sure you let it settle for about 5 minutes. Now, when you want to turn on your gas stove, this is how you must go about it. Turn on the cylinder valve. Now, before you turn on your stove valve, make sure you strike your match. before you turn on the valve, so that as soon as you turn it on, because you already have the lighted match, you get your fire.
Okay.
Don't turn the stove on before you try to look for matches.
Yeah.
Other than that, you have gas escaping into the kitchen.
Yeah.
And if you don't take time, you become a victim.
Okay.
So that is the appropriate way to light your stove. Then when you are also turning it off is the opposite, the same way around again. From the cylinder to the stove, and you have your fire off. Okay. The reason why you have to do it so is, you see, when you turn it off from the cylinder, you still have some gas in the tube. And so if you don't take time and there is any introduction of a naked light, that begins a fire in the kitchen. Okay. So that is why you have to go through the process from where you started to light the fire to the point again. Now, the other one I want to talk about is, most often the cylinder develops a problem or a leakage. So anytime you go to the point to fill, make sure there is a washer on top at the head of the cylinder. So if the attendant tells you...
What is the washer? Is it the small cap that is usually on it?
There is a rubber.
Okay.
A rubber like a...
Is it the one they call the valve? Or?
No, that is not a valve.
Okay.
So it's just a round rubber that is fitted into the head of the cylinder.
Yes.
So that valve wears because it is rubber, and the pulling of the regulator, fixing and removing makes it to become one off. Yeah. So anytime you go, even if the attendant didn't tell you, you ask the attendant to change it for you. It is now 3 cedis. It is not because of 3 cedis you are going to allow leakage into your home for fire to start. So that is one thing that we have to also take very good care of.
So yes, what about the charcoal fires? Because now LPG is quite expensive and people are seemingly resorting to going back to charcoal fires. So
if you want to go back to the use of charcoal fires, which I will not advise, even though there are specific type of food that if you want to cook, you have to definitely go back to the charcoal fire. But if you want to do that, there is an appropriate means of doing that. Normally, it is not about the usage, but it is after using the charcoal for whatever you want to do and how to extinguish the charcoal fire. People just drop the charcoal with the fire on the floor and pour water on it. That is good. But you need to turn the charcoal over to ensure that every fire in the charcoal is off. And then there are embers, which is mixed with the ash. Ensure that that one is also extinguished. Because if you don't do that, and especially when we are in the dry season, there is a wind that will blow the ember away. Wherever they land, they start a fire. So nobody, you will see that people will say, but there was no fire here. How come that the fire was able to start? It is because you didn't extinguish your charcoal fire well.
So you mentioned that in the slums, there seems to be a higher number of fire outbreaks there. Can you touch on that a little?
So in the slums, mostly one person will go and connect electricity and the rest will tap into it. Unfortunately, in doing so, we don't get professionals to do it for us. We want somebody who will just take 5 cedis from us and do the connection for us. And that is what mostly results in fires. You see, when you are connecting, the ends must be properly connected and sellotaped. If that doesn't happen, you create what we call a local heating at the points, because there will be small sparks coming. Sometimes it is not even easy for the naked eye to see. So these sparks will continue until they generate enough heat, then they start a fire. So when you need to do an extension of electricity supply, get someone who is qualified to do it for you so that it will be properly done and it will not result in any fire outbreak. Then also, when there is light outage in such areas, the easy thing to go for is candle. Unfortunately, our brothers and sisters in those areas don't appropriately use the candles. When you want to use candle, get a ceramic bowl. The reason why you have to get a ceramic bowl or a metallic plate and put the candle in it, when you stick it into the ceramic bowl or the plate, you pour water in it, so that in the event that anybody should touch the candle and the candle should fall, because the base is water, it will fall in the water and it will go off. But you don't put it on a table like we have in front of us. If you fall asleep, and it is easy to fall asleep, then the candle will burn, and when it is warmed up to the table, it will begin the fire. By the time you realize, you are gone with the fire. And so it is important that when you want to use candles, and this is the cause of most of the fires in the slums, you find a bowl, an appropriate bowl with water at the base. Then that one, even if you fall asleep or somebody should touch and it should fall, then because you have water there, it will easily go off for you.
So how can you give us a bit of an exposition on how smokers and people who tend to work with fire also contribute to fire outbreaks?
So for smokers, we advise that always keep a tray where you put the cigarette butts in it.
Yes.
Because mostly they finish and they just throw it anywhere. And during the dry season, they create a lot of problems for us. It is, you would think that you are creating the problem for the fire service. It's not for the fire service. You are creating for the whole of the environment, because we are destroying the environment, as I indicated earlier on. So the appropriate means of smoking is that you always get a tray where you put your butts in and you appropriately dispose of it. For if you are in your home, make sure if you are smoking, you don't smoke whilst you feel sleepy or you are in bed. If you do so, you doze off. Whilst you are still handling the smoke, the cigarette. When you doze off, it will fall off from your hand. And if you are unfortunately sitting in a chair like we are sitting in, this is a highly combustible material. Unfortunately, when this one is burning, it doesn't give off flames.
It will just be burning.
It will be burning. We call it slow combustion. So, and the smoke that comes out is very poisonous. It will choke you to death even before the fire gets to you. And so it is appropriate that when you are smoking, you smoke whilst you are very alert, not when you are feeling sleepy and you are sitting down. That one, you doze off and you burn yourself.
So this is not limited to just cigarette smokers, weed smokers, literally anything that has to be burnt a bit to emit some smoke for you. So the weed smokers shouldn't think that because they said it's cigarettes, you're not part. Because the weed tends to create those psychedelic feelings where you may end up feeling sleepy. So we are going to take a short break. Right after that, we'll start learning about fire extinguishers and all the other preventive measures to use to, safeguard ourselves from any fire outbreak. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the KOKO Digest Morning Show. If you're just tuning in, we are having a conversation about fire prevention, fire outbreak prevention, and safety measures. So we have here ACFO 1 Timothy Osafo Efum. He's the Director of Public Relations of the Ghana National Fire Service, and he's educating us on fire outbreaks and preventive measures, safety measures to employ in our homes, in our communities, at work, everywhere. So yes, back to our discussion. What's the difference between inflammable and flammable materials?
Okay, so Normally, they mean the same.
Okay.
But inflammable is normally used for liquid substances that can easily burn.
Okay.
But basically, they mean the same thing.
Okay.
So whether flammable or inflammable, it is substances that easily catches fire and
So
burn.
inflammable is the liquids,
Yes.
mostly liquids, and the flammable
Exactly,
is mostly
solid.
Okay, can you touch a little bit on, flame-resistant materials and then slow transmission, like what we were talking about just during the break?
Right. So, because fires can occur anywhere and everywhere, in premises as we are now, you can put in materials that should there be any fire, the rate of transmission will be slowed down. So we have what we call fire-resistant doors.
Okay.
So that, for instance, if there is a fire outside this premises, it will not be able to transfer to this place. So the function of that fire-resistant material is to slow down the rate of transmission of fire. Basically, that is it. So we have what we call fire blankets.
Okay.
And that one is mostly used in the kitchen. So that if, for example, you are cooking and the pan catches fire, you can easily use the fire blanket to cover the pan so that the fire cannot transfer from the pan to other places.
I remember seeing a few educative, fire outbreak safety measures that they said you can even wet a blanket when you have a gas fire and then put it
Cover
on
it.
it so that how effective is that?
So it is very effective. That is a local or traditional way of going about it.
Okay.
Instead of getting the fire blanket, which is very expensive, that one is very expensive, you can easily get a blanket or a cloth, wet it and use it for the same purpose. They serve the same purpose. However, one is more hygienic than the other.
Okay.
Sure. So that's the difference.
Yeah. So during the break, you said smoke detectors were not very expensive. So let's talk about smoke detectors and then just inform and educate people on acquiring some for their homes and offices as well.
So smoke detectors are a mechanism that are placed in premises that easily identifies or detects fires at their early stages and then sound an alarm.
Okay.
So simply, they will detect a fire, sound an alarm, so that if anybody is around, it will alert the person for the person to escape.
Okay.
And they are very important because they prevent deaths. For example, if you are asleep and there is a fire in your room, you may not immediately know until either the smoke or the heat gets to you before you get to know that there is a fire in your room. But if you have a smoke detector fitted in your room, and not only your room, everywhere in your premises, so that they will easily pick the smoke. Once they pick the smoke, they give you an alarm, and whether you are asleep or far away, you get to know, and then you know what appropriate action to be taken. So smoke detectors, they are very, very important that we need to get them, not only in our offices, but more importantly in our homes. Because the law is specific about our workplaces, that is where we fit them. But in our homes, they are very important because they prevent deaths.
Okay, so there's also information, if you can give us a little information on sprinkler systems. What's the difference between sprinkler systems and then the smoke detectors? And which one is more efficient or affordable even?
So the two play different roles. The sprinkler system is a water head that is fitted mostly in the ceiling of your apartment, so that they also operate on the basis of heat. But they can be manual and they can be automatic. So as soon as they pick the automatic ones, they will pick the heat. Once they pick the heat, the water heads are broken. Then they start sprinkling the water in the premises. So the heads are fitted in such a way that they overlap each other, so that there wouldn't be any area in the premises that water or whatever extinguishing media that it is bringing out will not cover. So they are arranged in such a way that they overlap. So if this one comes to this level, this one overlap it, so that the whole place can take part of the extinguishing media. So if you ask me, it is water heads or whatever head that is fitted. If it is a powder head that is fitted up there, yes. But mostly it has to do with liquid, which is water. But we have powder as well.
So what about smoke alarms, or they are the same as smoke detectors?
So the smoke alarms, because we are talking about the cost, we don't normally fit alarms separate from the detectors. They go hand in hand. So the smoke detector performs the same function as detecting and sounding an alarm. Now we have proper alarm systems. Those alarm systems may not necessarily be fire alarm, but general alarm that they will sound in the company, indicating that there is something wrong, there is an emergency. Therefore, everybody should escape to an assembly point. So we have a general alarm system that is used for all forms of emergencies. So that one, when you hear it, you move to an assembly point, which is already demarcated. You don't wait till something happens before you look for an assembly point. No, the assembly point is already demarcated, so that once you hear the alarm, and there's once in a while, there should be simulation exercise for everybody in the premises, so that it wouldn't sound like you don't know what the meaning of that alarm. Once you hear, they have a peculiar sound. So once you hear that peculiar sound, it means it's an emergency. You need to stop whatever you are doing and move towards the assembly point.
So yes, we have fire extinguishers here, and my producer has been so excited about this. So if you can give us just a basic intro or overview of what the fire extinguisher does and the many parts it has.
So in front of me is a carbon dioxide extinguisher. Let me indicate first and foremost that we have various types of extinguishers. In the same way, we have various types of fires. That is why we have various types of extinguishers. So each extinguisher can handle the type of fire that has occurred. That is why you don't just go to the market and buy. You need to get somebody, a firefighter, to come to your aid, to assist you, make an assessment of your premises, and then tell you what type of extinguisher you need. So the one in front of me, as I said, is a carbon dioxide extinguisher. Now, this type of extinguisher is used for Class C fires.
So
when we say when we say Class C fires, they are fires involving gases. So, for example, we have spoken about LPG gas this morning. So, in the kitchen, it is appropriate for use in the kitchen.
I was also even going to ask that apparently there are certain fires that cannot be put out with water. It would even make it worse. And even the type of water might, I think if it's hard water, it's even worse, or if it's soft, something like that. If you can also give us a little info on that. Let me start. So that is the basics. So we have types of fires. We have Class A fires. Class A fires involve solid materials that are on fire. We call them Class A fires. We have Class B fires. Those are liquid fires. So petroleum products, when they are on fire, it is called Class B fires. Then we have Class C fires, which is gaseous fires. We have Class D fires, which is metallic materials when they are on fire. So we have other types, but in Ghana, we have adopted only these four. And any of the others can fit into the four classifications that we have. I was about to ask, let's say, chemical, these industries, but it falls under the gaseous fires here. So
each of these also have its unique fire extinguishing media. So, for example, we have the powder extinguisher or water extinguisher that is used for Class A fires. We have Class B fire, which is the liquid. And that one, what we use is called the foam concentrate or foam solution that is used to extinguish a Class B fire. Then Class C fire, you can either use the CO2, which is in front of me, or a powder extinguisher, which we have one here, but because of space, so it can deal with that. And then we have the Class D fire, which is mostly dealt with by the powder extinguisher. So the powder, you realize that the powder almost runs through. So we call the powder, we have the type of powder extinguisher that we call multi-purpose. It means it can deal with all the classes of fires. So it depends on what you are going to use it for. If you come to the fire service, we tell you which one to go to the market and buy. So that is it. Now, coming to the parts of the fire extinguisher. Every fire extinguisher has parts.
Sorry, before you come to the parts, what fire extinguisher then do the motorists require? Because I usually see a very small type in their cars. Which one is that?
It is good that you are bringing this up. You see, that type of extinguisher is not good for our environment. The reason is it contains a chemical. Now, because we have two extreme weathers, very hot weather and sometimes very cold weather, it tends to disintegrate the composition of the content of that extinguisher. So you realize that a time will come that you have an emergency. Instead of that extinguisher to extinguish the fire, it is rather helping the fire to flame more. It means the content has been decomposed. It has expired. Not that its expiration period is up, but because of the weather, the extreme weather conditions. So we don't advise motorists to buy that type of extinguisher. And in any case, if you look at the size of that extinguisher, it cannot deal with vehicular fire.
Well, I think it's also because of the size of the vehicle. Because having something like this in your car, where would you put it? To be in the boot, it may take too much space. So I think the design was to try to make it a little portable.
So you see, it is about doing what is appropriate.
Yes, that's true.
If you have that one in your vehicle and there is a fire in the vehicle and you cannot deal with it, why did you put it there? Is it because the police will arrest you?
Well, there's that too.
So we have smaller extinguishers, about half of this.
So this one.
That's saloon cars. We recommend for saloon vehicles. And that is the type that you need to get. I am not here to destroy anybody's business, but the right thing must be done. After all, you spent money in buying your vehicle. Therefore, you must spend a little more in getting the appropriate fire extinguisher on your vehicle, so that when the unfortunate happens, you'll be able to deal with the situation.
So let's go to the parts now.
So, excuse me. This fire extinguisher is called the CO2, as I've indicated, but it has a head assemble. All this part is called the head assemble. Now the head assemble has a unit called the handle. The down part here is called the handle. And then the top part here is called the trigger or the lever. Now, before you can operate, so we also have this one here. This one, because it is carbon dioxide, it is called a horn.
For tuning in. This is the KOKO Digest Morning Show, and we're having our main discussion. We're talking about fire safety and preventive measures for an outbreak, and we were discussing the fire extinguisher and its parts. So please don't forget to send in your comments, call our WhatsApp, call our call number, and send your WhatsApp messages to our WhatsApp numbers displayed on your screen, and we'll read them out here. Any questions you have will be answered by our guest. So let's continue. Yes, you were showing us the parts.
Like I indicated, we have this head assemble. That contains the handle, the lever or the trigger, and then the pin. This is called a pin. And the pin here, the purpose of it is to prevent accidental operation. You see, if you are lifting this, you hold it this way and lift. So if this pin is not there, by the time you finish lifting it, you have operated it. And so the pin is to serve as to prevent accidental operation. Now we also have the tube or the horn. In this case, it is called the horn. So, and then the cylinder, which contains the contents of the extinguisher. If you want to operate a fire extinguisher, we have an acronym for it to make it very easy for use. And the acronym is PASS.
Okay.
P-A-S-S. So the P, first P, or the P, stands for pull the pin. Like I indicated, there is a pin here. Yeah. So you pull the pin. When you pull the pin, then you hold it this way. Don't press because you have removed the pin. If you press, the content will come out. Okay. Then the A is aim. So you hold either the tube or the horn, in this case, and aim it at the base of the fire. Okay. Now, when a substance is burning, you see the flames up there. It's not the flames you are extinguishing. It is whatever is on fire that you are extinguishing. So if it is this table that is burning, you aim at the table here. Yes. Okay. You don't aim at the flames that is burning. You will not achieve your aim. So aim at the base of the fire. Then the first S is suppress, the lever. If you press it down, the content will start coming out. Then the last S is sweep. It means you move it to and fro, and then the fire is off for you. So that is how we operate a fire extinguisher. Maybe the next time we have to demonstrate. Step out there, do the demonstration, and then we'll play it back for people to see how it is done. Now, it is important to do a demonstration because, especially this type of extinguisher, when you are operating, they give off a loud sound. Okay. And if you have not done it before, you will leave the extinguisher and run away. And therefore, it is important that you try your hands on so that when the real event happens, you know how to go about it.
Thank you so much. Let us see if we remember. So we have pass, that is to pull the pin.
Sure.
Aim your horn or the tube. Then to suppress, which is to press the lever. And then to sweep, which means to, sweep the horn, your aim, And the aim is to make sure you're aiming at what is on fire and not the flames. So please remember to do that. And so, yes, thank you so much for, teaching us. I'm sure we'll have you back to do a demonstration for Club TV, and then we'll play it out there for our visitors, our viewers as well. So, is there an expiry date for fire extinguishers?
Right. So, every thing that has been manufactured has an expiring date. Okay. But that is technical. So I'm going to do or teach what we need to know. What we need to know is that if you have an extinguisher like this, every half a year it must be inspected. Okay. And so you get in touch with either the fire service or we have private people that have been registered who can also do that. We call them service providers. So this service provided or the fire service itself can help you to do the inspection. Then once in a year, you have to service it. Servicing means you have to, if it is powder, you bring the contents out. Okay. You see, because it is powder, and like I indicated, because of our weather, the powder normally cakes in there. Okay. And so if you don't bring it out to check, and maybe to replace the content, the time will come that you want to use it, and because it is cake, it will not come out. Okay. So it will not serve the purpose. Okay. So every half a year, you inspect, and then every year you service. Okay. That is what we need to know.
Okay. So let's talk about evacuation and escape plans. The only thing I remember is the stop, drop, and roll under the smoke or something. So please educate us a little on that, then we wrap up.
So when it comes to evacuation plan, it is just a drawing of your premises, indicating exit points that should there be any emergency, you can use to exit your premises. Now, this thing should be done before the family, for everybody to know, so that if you are not there, the children will also be able to escape when the uneventuality should happen. And so it is very, very important if we want our safety, or if we want to be able to escape safely to a safer place, then we need to go through the evacuation plan and drill. It's not only the plan. You have to put it into practice, and that is what is called the drill. So it is good to get the evacuation plan. It is also very important to implement this plan so that it will serve its purpose. Now, in coming out with the plan, you have to get a sketch of your whole premises. That will indicate to everybody if it is here. Every floor must have its plan, so that here being the upper floor will have its own plan, where to escape. And in doing that, you must have at least two ways of exiting the premises. So if you have a plan that has just one exit, then it is not appropriate. What if the exit is where the emergency started? Where are you going to use to exit?
The window.
So assuming we are on this last floor, and we have just one exit, and the exit is blocked, where do we use? Because we can't jump down, even though we have windows here. So you must have alternate exit points. So if you are doing the evacuation plan, these are the things you look at. But if it is just a single building, that one, we can advise that if you don't have another exit, you can use the window. Even though under normal circumstances, it is not an exit. But if it can serve the purpose, we can allow that to happen. That is why we advise that if you think that thieves are disturbing you and therefore you want to construct burglar-proof, you don't burglar-proof yourself when you don't have a place to pass. It is better to allow the thief to come for some of your things than you losing your life. So when you are doing it, we are not saying don't do it, because it is also not easy. Seeing all your properties being carried away by somebody who come to you as a visitor in the night.
Yes.
So there is one form that is can be opened and closed.
Okay.
We call it the adjustable type of burglar-proof. You can adopt that one, just that one is expensive than the normal ones that we have been fixing. The fixed one is cheaper, but it comes at a cost, your life. That cost you can't pay. So it is important that you go for the one that is adjustable. That one you have your key that you can place anywhere in your room, that is easily known to all the occupants in the room. So in case of any problem, you just open, push it, or open it, and then all of you can escape through either the window or the alternate door. That is what we advise.
So let's talk about a more practical plan to evacuate. So let's say there's a fire here. What are we supposed to do? Do we just run helter-skelter, or we do the stop, drop, and roll, or cover our nose?
So the stop, drop, and roll is when your cloth is on fire.
Okay.
That is when you do stop, drop, and roll. It is not an evacuation, part of evacuation.
Okay. I honestly, some of us, let me use myself. I thought because the smoke tends to come and sit up, then so being under, you just roll
so that one you don't drop.
Oh, okay. Okay.
and you don't row.
Okay.
So let's use here as a typical example. If there is an emergency here, it can be fire.
Okay.
It can be, let's say, earthquake
Water, okay.
or whatever, and we need to exit. Supposing there is an earthquake or a fire, and it starts from this door, you have alternate exits, so we can move through there. What do? That is why you have to go through the simulation, where the firefighter will show you how to exit.
Okay.
So, for example, are there equipment here that are so crucial for us? If yes, then we must at all times assign someone to ensure the safety of that equipment. And that equipment must be secured only if the person is also secured. You don't do that at the expense of your life.
Okay.
For example, we have MCR just across. Can they shut the machines? If they can, who is to shut the machines?
Okay.
Those are the things we do before we exit.
Okay.
But in all this, we look at the safety of the person. If it is safe to do so, then you do that. If it is not safe, just exit. After all, we can buy all those things again. But when you lose your life, we cannot buy you again.
That's true.
So if there is smoke here, then that is where your plan comes in.
Okay.
Smoke is lighter than air, so it will be on top. So you go down on your knees where you can see clearly, then you crawl to the next exit point and exit this place. If there is no smoke and you have to walk upright, you walk briskly.
Okay.
You don't run.
Okay.
During emergencies, you don't run. Because the potential is that if you run, because you are in a hurry, you may crash and fall. If you fall, because everybody is exiting, there may not be anyone to pick you up and you be trapped. Now, if there is any one with physical disability, we must get somebody whose responsibility it is to help the person to exit.
Okay.
So this is why we need to plan even before the emergency occurs. Because if you don't plan, all these people, you will not be able to make provision for them. So you make provision for everyone. If it is a kid, if it is an adult, an old man, an old lady that needs help, who is supposed to help that person? So you put all of this on paper and practice it so that in the event that it really occurs, then you are aware of what to do. So these are the things that we consider when it comes to putting in place an evacuation plan.
Okay. So does all this apply to the home too?
Yes.
Okay.
Every premises, wherever you have human beings.
Okay. So,
it even applies in the farm.
okay. So we have a few questions here. This one is from Rose Entertainment. Says, "Sir, please, can you share some enlightenment of fire outbreak at the workplace?" And then we have, which fire extinguishers makes for the best kitchen fire extinguisher? And so we'll take them one by one, but let me read them all. So Rose Entertainment again says, "Households with neglected or inappropriate wiring are more prone to fire incidents. Thank you, sir, for your education." That's from Rose Entertainment. And then Ibrahim Abu Junaid says, "Very educative." And then Rose Entertainment again says, "If someone is on fire and they stop, drop and roll, will it really put out the flames?"
Yes, it will stop the flames. You don't need to just do a 110 and the fire will go off. No, you turn until the fire goes off. Okay. So if this is the space that you have, if you roll to that end and the fire has not gone off, you roll back until the fire goes off.
Okay, so the other question, the first one, it says, "Can you share some enlightenment on fire outbreak at the workplace?"
So like we have indicated just now, when a fire occurs in the workplace, whoever observes the fire first will have to sound an alarm.
Yes.
alerting other occupants that there is an incident here. Then if the whatever means that the company has, if it is a bell, if it is an alarm, that alarm is sounded for everybody to move out of the premises. But like I indicated, who is to do what? Don't think that someone has already called the fire service. There should be responsibilities assigned so that there will be someone whose responsibility it is to call the fire service, whose responsibility to ensure there is a head count so that we don't leave anyone in the premises. Because when the fire service arrives, our first responsibility is any lives that are involved. So if someone is trapped, it is our responsibility to ensure that that life is brought out first before we can do other things. So there is a responsibility for someone to do that. Like I indicated, if there are any equipments to be shut, whose responsibility it is to do that? So all those things are done, and they are planned before the fires occur. So in the event of a fire in a workplace, one is whoever observes the incident must sound an alarm for everybody to hear. And then if the facility has a proper alarm system, that alarm system is sounded for everybody to exit the premises. Now, as you are exiting, if you have open windows and it is safe to do that, someone must be responsible for that, to shut in all the windows behind before you leave. The reason why you have to do that is because fire takes air to burn. And once the window is open and more air comes in, it gives it more oxygen to burn. So it is important. Once we have all been able to exit, we must also have people that we have trained who can start fighting the fire if it is safe to do so. Every time we look at lives first, if it is safe for you to do that, you do that. So the people that we have trained to be responsible for fires in the company will then pick their extinguishers available and whatever fire media that have been provided to start fighting the fire before the arrival of the fire service. The good news is that now a lot of the times before we get there, because we have trained people, they've been able to handle the situation before we get there. And it is advisable that every institution, not only institution, in our homes as well, we get this education so that we'll be able to take the first step, the first aid before the arrival of the fire service, and it will help all of us.
Okay. Wow, that was very, very, very informative. So the second question here is, which fire extinguisher makes for the best kitchen fire extinguisher?
So I think I've already mentioned that when I was discussing the use or the types of extinguishers. I indicated that the carbon dioxide, it is also called the gentleman's extinguisher. It is called gentleman because once you use it on the food and the fire is off, you can still consume your food.
I never knew that.
Yes, but when you use powder, powder is poisonous. And once it is mixed with the food.
Yeah, we have the types of fire extinguishers displayed. So please take note. And so for how long before our guest continues? Yeah, so let's go back to the fire, the blankets for the second question here is it advisable to use a blanket for fires confined to the stove?
So if you don't have the fire extinguisher, if you have the fire extinguisher, that's the appropriate means of dealing with the fire. But if you don't have the fire extinguisher, then you can use the blankets or the sack or a thick cloth. The only thing is you have to wet it. If you don't wet it, it will itself be on fire and burn. That is why you wet it.
Okay. So for D&J Ventures, you can use a blanket, but it has to be wet. And then, so make sure to wet it if you don't have the fire extinguisher. So let's talk quickly about fire drills, and then we wrap up. How many fire drills does the Ghana National Fire Service embark on, or the training processes? How many times do you do that, and how often?
So every institution must have at least one training in a year. Every institution must have one training in a year. But some institutions, because they cannot release all their personnel at the same time, they arrange so that we take them in batches. So you see a company that we may visit maybe 10 times in a year, depending on the number of people that they employ and how many can be released at a time. There are other companies too, they can just release their people all at a go. So those companies, we visit them once in a year. That is for the training. There are other visits that we do. That is different from the training aspect. So it depends on the company. We don't want to create problems for the companies. Already things are difficult. So you don't also say that because I have a mandate to do this, give me all the personnel today. No, we don't want to do that. So we do it at the convenience of the institutions involved. So it depends on which institution.
Okay, so what about communities and schools?
So for communities, as for that one, basically we do the education, not training. We do education because training, if you are doing training, you need to give the people the opportunity to try their hands. There is a difference between practical and theory. And for firefighting, you need the practical aspect as well as the theoretical aspect if you want to be able to be effective. But if we are talking about just the prevention of fires, that is where we do a lot of the education. But if you want to do proper firefighting, as and when the prevention has failed and the fires have come, and there are certain fires, no matter what, they will occur. So we can't say there will be 0 fires in the country. No, that one is not possible. So when those ones occur, what do? Do you fold your hands and wait for the fire service? No, you need to start doing something. But if it is beyond your reach, and we tell them when it gets beyond their reach, that is when your life is in danger. Just step aside and wait for the fire service to come. That is why it is important that the moment you observe the occurrence of the fire, you immediately call the fire service so that it wouldn't be like a time lapse between when the fire occurred and the time the fire service arrives.
So, yes, they say call the fire service, but are there any processes we need to go through to get to reach the fire service?
Now, let me sound a word of caution that anytime we do education like this, you see a lot of prank calls coming to our end. Please, this education is not for you to be pranking the fire service. If we get hold of you, fortunately now, if you call, we're able to detect your number because we are using screens and your number pops up on the screen. So we're able to identify who is calling. When there is an emergency and you want to call the fire service, you call 192. That is a direct line to the fire service, or the national emergency line 112. 112. Now, as I indicated earlier on, mostly people abuse the emergency lines. So you realize that those who are in real need rather are not able to get through to the fire service. And they complain that we call the fire service and they are not picking. It's not that the fire service is not picking. The system is made in such a way that it is like you activating call waiting on your mobile phone. The only thing is this one, we are unable to get the sound. So until we pick and finish with one person who is online for you to come through, and you know, during emergencies too, you cannot wait forever because somebody is on the line abusing the system. So they will conclude that we call the fire service and the fire service is not responding. No, it's not like that. It is because your brother, your sister is on the line when he's not supposed to be on the line. That is the problem. So you call the emergency line, we'll ask you 1 or 2 questions. So when we are asking you the questions, please, it is just about 10 seconds. That will not destroy anything. Just take your time and give us the details that we are requesting for. For example, even though now we can identify which number you are calling from, we'll still ask you, what is your number? Just to confirm that you are not pranking us. when the person is pranking you, he'll give you a different number. So once that is done, we say thank you. Because if indeed you need help, you not call a different number from your number.
Okay.
So that is some of the things we also do to sieve out the prank calls from the real calls.
Thank you so much. It has been very, very educative and informative here. And so I would like to take your closing remarks to our viewers before we sign out.
Now, my closing remarks will be this. Fire safety is as important as your life. Take your fire safety very important and take all the preventive measures. But like I indicated, there are certain fires, no matter what you do, they will still occur. When such incidents occur, or when such fires or other emergencies occur, just immediately call the fire service on our emergency 192 or 112. Don't wait until the situation gets out of hand and then you tend to blame us that the incident happened 30 minutes ago and we have not arrived. It is not our making. For now, we don't have the technology that will automatically prompt us that there is an emergency in your premises. So for now, you have to take a telephone, or if you are close to the fire station, drive directly to the fire station and inform us. Then we'll quickly come to your aid. Those days that we tend to blame the fire service and the incident happened 1 hour before they arrive, they are past and gone. Please, fire management is everybody's responsibility. It is not only the responsibility of the fire service. So you do your part, the fire service will also do its parts, and then we'll have a complete safe environment to live in.
Thank you so, so much. This has been a very educative and informative segment. And I want to say a big thank you to you once again for granting us this opportunity to learn from you today. And a big thank you to you, my viewers, for staying tuned, tuning in, sending in your questions and your comments. And a big thank you to our production team, everybody, management, sponsors, for making this show a success. We hope to see you once again bright and early on Thursday. That's tomorrow, for the Homo and everything that's going to be going on there. So do have a bright and beautiful day.
Clog TV. Beyond the policy.